everyone, welcome to my desk where I do all my crafting. Today we're going to be making a close contact jump saddle for my little Schleich model horses. I did a tutorial on how to make a jump saddle like 2 years ago, and since then how I make them, I've improved it and they're a little more realistic now. So I wanted to make an updated tutorial. Some of you probably think the tutorials are boring and don't watch them, but for those of you who are crafty and like making model horse tack, today we're going to be making tack in this video. So this little saddle here I made for little model horse Sunshine, and I especially made it for the last video. I tried to make it look like my real jump saddle, so I thought I'd show you this one before we begin. Anyway, we're going to get started with the materials you need. So for my saddles, I make them out of felt. I know a lot of people probably think felt is unrealistic, but I find that if I'm particular about the kind of felt I use, because they are different, they turn out looking really nice. So I wanted to compare them. So this felt here, hopefully you can tell, but it is thicker and it's hairier and it's very furry and kind of fluffy. And this felt is a lot thinner, and as you can see, it's not hairy at all. So this felt kind of looks more like leather, so that's what I make my saddles out of. And this felt is great for like the girth, or if you want a saddle pad with a look that is very cushiony. And the thinnest ribbon you can find, I think this is like 2 to 3 millimeter. It's actually still kind of thick, but this is what I've always had, and I have a lot of this, so this is what I'm using. Some tiny 3 millimeter jump rings, 6 millimeter jump rings for when we do the girth, and wire. This is like, oh goodness, I think 20 gauge, but basically just a wire that looks like that. Some really thin cardboard, like a cereal box, or I like to use an empty toilet paper roll. And you'll need hot glue, scissors, wire cutters, little pliers, and a knife. If you're young, do be careful. And a marker or a pen, pencil, just something. So first thing, you're going to take your cardboard and your marker, and you're going to draw on the shape of the seat for your saddle. So I'm going to draw it, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Something like this. Don't mind the little line up here. That was my mess up. That one kind of a little wonky, but now I'm just going to cut this out of the cardboard. I'm using these little scissors because they're dull. I don't want to use my sharp scissors to cut cardboard and make them dull too. Now I have my little cardboard cut out that looks like this. This is going to be our saddle tree. Now we wait for our dirty little hot glue gun with hot chocolate on it to warm up. Now we also have our piece of felt. I'm making my saddle brown, so hopefully my hot glue gun reaches. So I'm going to put hot glue on the bottom half, that way I can still hold it. And I put it on the front, and then I'm flipping it over and going to stick it to the felt, making sure there's room around it so I can cut it out with space around it. And I'm just going to press it on there and then turn it up like this. And now I'm going to put glue up top here as I knock things over and glue this down. And I actually started the next step without even showing you. That's what happens when I get distracted. Anyway, so I cut it out of the felt, leaving some around the outside, like I was trying to explain earlier. And I've started, so out of the corners here, I cut a little square out. So I'll do the same on this side, just like this. And now I'm gonna go around and cut little tabs into this felt. So I wanna make sure I'm very careful when I cut these, just because I want them to be tidy, and I don't want to be able to see when I fold these over that I've made a cut. Now that we have all these little tabs, I'm going to glue them down on the back side here. So it'll look really messy on the back, but super tidy on the front. All right, so I've finished that step. Let me flip it over. So this is what we have now. If you saw how I used to make my saddles, you're probably thinking, well, this is pretty much exactly the same. So far it is. I still make the seats the same. So we're going to continue on and finish this. So we're going to grab 2 of the 6 millimeter jump rings, and we're going to glue them on to a tiny piece of ribbon. It doesn't really matter what the ribbon looks like or what color it is, because will never see it. And so I just kind of put them on the ribbon and leave a little tab and then fold it down and glue it. And just press it together and it's all sticky and I just kind of pull that apart. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to glue it onto the back side of the saddle that's all open and messy right here, just like this, like before I dropped it. Now that that's glued, we're going to put glue on the back of this and we're going to glue it to the felt again. After it's glued, I need to cut it out. I'm going to cut this really close around the edge so it looks really clean and tidy. Alrighty, it's all cut out. This side here on the edge, if you can see, it looks a little yucky, but that's going to be covered, so it's going to be okay. And you can kind of see that ribbon in there, but that'll all be covered. Now I've just taken my ribbon and threaded it through one of the jump rings, and I'm going to glue it down to itself. I can't get it together with one hand, but I think you know what I mean. I'm going to glue it down, and I'm going to just make sure that I don't get any glue on the jump ring because I want it to be able to move. So it's going to look like this, and also make sure your glue side, the side that you glued it down onto, is on the back. So, and then I'm going to cut this piece of ribbon like 4 or 5 inches long. I actually don't think you need any more than 4, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So there we have it, and now we're going to make the irons. So we're going to use our wire and our pliers and cutters. To make the little irons, you start with your pliers, and I put the wire in between the pliers, leaving about that much sticking out. Then I just bend this over the top, pull this out, and then I cut this about this long so I can put this away. Now I take the pliers again and kind of shape this how I want it to be. I want it to be a little more smushed that way. And then I take this long end right here and I bend this while trying not to deform the iron. Bend it over like that, if you can see, and then this one is kind of long. So I can have it about that long, and then I bend this one up. More difficult to do it when I'm filming because I have a hard time seeing it. Like that, and of course, obviously, you'll need 2 of them. Now we're going to put the little irons on our stirrup leathers, which are these. So we're just going to thread this onto the ribbon, and we're going to loop this ribbon around and thread it back up through the jump ring just like that, and then it can be pulled to be either tight or loose, which is going to be the length of our stirrups. So now we're just going to set this aside for a minute, and we're going to cut out the flaps for the saddle. This here is like the shape and size, and we're going to need 5 of these. Now I have 5, and I'm going to take one and I'm going to cut it in half. So like this, so I cut it vertically, and now they're kind of big still, so I'm going to cut a little bit off. So it's kind of hard to explain, but I will show you. So I'm going to cut it like this, and then this we'll just throw away. And I'm doing the same with this other one. Now I'm going to take one of these tiny little pieces and one of our little cutouts here, and I'm going to glue the tiny piece on the edge. And you're going to do the exact same thing with another one, but you want to make sure that you make them opposites for each side of the saddle. Now we need to make the little stirrup leather keeper things on the saddle flaps. So I've got my knife, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make little cuts in the felt so that I can put a piece of ribbon through. So I just decide where I want the keeper to be, so I make one cut, and this is like a stack of paper that's pretty thick, so I can just press into it and make like a cut into the felt. And then you'll need to make another one like the width away from it as the ribbon is. This should make more sense when I show it to you. Now I've cut the end of the ribbon at an angle and put a little glue on it so it's stiff, and I just threaded it through one of our little cuts. Let's see if I can grab it with one hand. So like that, but we don't need that much on the end. So I've glued the ribbon down on the back side, and now I'm going to cut this ribbon and then take it down through the other little slit we made. So now we have like a little pocket loop on the front, and on the back I'm going to take this piece and just glue it down over top the other, so it's just going to look like that. And now I've done the exact same thing with this other one. Now we're going to take the other two and we're going to do the same thing with both of them, but we're going to take the end of the ribbon and we're going to glue it at the top, so it's like this. Technically on a real saddle there'd be, mine has 3, but 1 is only necessary and much easier to do. Now we're going to take 2 of our little tiny jump rings, if I can get a hold of them. And you're going to glue them each onto a little piece of ribbon and cut them short. And we're going to glue these onto the inside of our flap like that, and then when we're done it'll look like this. But first we have to glue this here. Now that that's glued there, we're going to take this piece and we're going to put glue on it halfway down, and we're going to glue it on top of this one. So for this one I already did it, so it's like that, and that's stuck to it. So this is when it's gonna start coming together. So we're gonna add a little bit of glue onto the ends of our saddle flaps, and we're going to glue it onto the bottom of the seat very tidily. We don't want it to be messy. So I got it all glued together. This is what the back looks like, and this is the front. A lot of ribbons everywhere. For the stirrup leathers, I just threaded the end through the little keepers we made, so it looks really nice, and I really like how that has turned out. And I'm just going to kind of adjust them to where the stirrups need to be, the length, and then I'm going to trim the end and put a little glue on the end so that it doesn't fray. But this is kind of like just a false end, so I could get it through the little keeper. Now what I've done is I've cut little pieces of felt. They're kind of, I don't know, like half circle shapes, I guess. And they're really tiny, and I'm gonna glue them onto the seat here on the edge to cover up the jump ring. And this is kind of difficult to do because you got to be really careful not to get any glue onto the ribbon, because you still want the ribbon to be able to move and slide. That way you can adjust the stirrup length. So you just kind of got to put it on the very edge and stick them just like that, and that's our little final touch for the saddle. Now we have those glued on, and there is a little tiny sparkle, can you see it, on the seat that's in the felt, and I can't get it out there. It's driving me nuts. There's a sparkle on it. Oh well though. We still have to finish off the ends of these ribbons on the saddle, but before we can do that, we gotta make a girth. So I like to make these padded looking ones. So I take white felt and I cut a strip. So this is how I cut mine out. Now I've got 4 jump rings, and I took 2 and I glued them onto the end of the ribbon, and they're loose so they can move. And now I'm going to place this onto the felt I cut. I'll show you if it stays. Like this. And I'm going to glue that there. And then on this end, I'm going to glue these other 2 jump rings just like I did on this end. So here is the girth all finished. And now we're just going to attach it to the saddle. I've attached it by taking the ribbon on the saddle and putting it through both the jump rings. And then if you can see, I brought it back up through the second one. And now it can be pulled tight and also adjusted. I've put it on muffin, and the thing is, as you can see, the ribbon sticks straight up instead of down. If I would have put the ribbon on the girth and put the little buckly end on the saddle, which is backwards to a real saddle, if any of that made sense, this ribbon would be facing down, which would be fine, but now it's straight up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it, and what I found works well is if I just take my finger and just tuck it up underneath the saddle flap, and then it goes down. So that works pretty well to fix that, and of course it won't be this long. And we're done, all finished. So for some saddle pad ideas, this one that I paired with this saddle that we just finished, I made using fabric, and I sewed it together with like a back on it, and then did did like a whip stitch around it for a trim. Super cute. Here is another example of that style, like this. But a super easy way to do a saddle pad is to just cut one out of felt, like I did on little Sunshine Pony here for her little set. It's just gray felt cut into a saddle pad shape. So that's super easy, but if you want to like do more work and make it really realistic, you can do it this way. But those are just some ideas. Anyway, we're finished. I love how this turned out. So cute. And now I have a big mess to clean up. So we're going to end this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed this, those of you who are into the tack making. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!